Attention remodeling entrepreneurs. Are you ready to rise? Ryan Paul Adams and Kyle Hunt are your hosts of Remodelers on the Rise. A weekly podcast where they interview today's most inspiring entrepreneurs from the remodeling world who share their journey and empower you to become the next remodeler on the rise. And now, here are your hosts.
Remodelers on the Rise, show number 2.
Welcome to Remodelers on the Rise. I am your host, Kyle Hunt, and alongside me is my co-host, Ryan Paul Adams. Welcome, Ryan.
Kyle, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Hey, Kyle just got back from the International Builders Show. How did that go, Kyle?
The International Builders Show. It was actually the first time I'd been to the show, and the sheer size of it was pretty impressive. I think I heard it was
massive.
Yeah, they said 70 or 75,000 attendees. And it combined with the kitchen and bath show, KBIS, this year. So I mean, from the conversations I had, it was just a lot of upbeat. Things in our industry are going in the right direction. One guy made the quip of, back in the day when I went to this show, everybody go out for their steak dinners and they're spending, good money on dinner and all that. And then the last several years, they haven't been quite as spend happy. And he said, I'm seeing a lot of steak dinners being bought again. In his case, he said, hey, I'm gonna hold off. I'm not quite ready to say we're back yet, but that was kind of what I took away from is a lot of excitement. In a lot of good direction. And I had a little speaking event on Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. and it went very well, but I think there were some remodelers that decided to sleep in. I don't know if they'd been out late the night before, but that 8 a.m. session was a little bit different than a middle afternoon.
Oh, that's great. The feeling I'm getting from most of the remodelers I'm talking right now is that they're positive about 2014. Things are looking good. Energy's good. So
indeed.
Looks like it'll be a good year.
Very good. Well, thanks for asking about that. Let's get started with today's guest. Our guest today is Rob Bauer, who is the CEO of Bauer Inc. down in Homewood, Alabama. And Rob has a lot of letters after his title: CGR, CAPS, GMB, to name a few, and many awards like the Remodeler of the Year down in Alabama and Remodeling Magazine's Big 50 Award. And when he's not running his remodeling business, he's hosting a Saturday morning talk show called Our House. And Ryan and I have both gotten to know him over the years, just from various ways in the industry. And we both know him as a very kind and generous man. And we're thankful that he's joining us today. Welcome, Rob.
Kyle, Ryan, nice to talk with you again.
Very good. So, Rob, the focus of this show is really about you and your business and your experience. I just gave you a quick intro, and now I'd like to turn it over to you. If you could briefly tell us more about you personally and your business.
Sure, I'd be glad to, guys. We've been in business for 40 years, started out in remodeling and just stayed with it, which seems to be unusual in this trade. But we're a full-service design and remodel company. We have morphed into doing the 3D virtual tours for all of our clients, and that's been the direction that the company has grown. We started out working for 5 different decorators. They introduced us to their clients. The business grew from there, really just on referral for years. And but that's the general picture of what we do as a business.
Very good. And you personally, share so people kind of know who you are a little bit as well.
Well, personally, everything that I do really has been absorbed with the business. I have, other than woodworking, I have very few hobbies outside of the business. I enjoy that immensely, and so I really have focused more on that. I don't have much interest in a lot of your typical hobbies, so I've just always concentrated on business.
Gotcha.
Love what you do. That's great.
I do.
Rob, would you mind sharing a success quote that you live by and maybe an example of how you might apply that to your life or your remodeling business?
Sure. One that I had heard years ago, the fellow's name is Henry Cloud, and he made the statement of when the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change, change occurs. And that just really resonated with me back in the 80s in particular.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Share a little bit more about that. Do you remember kind of, was there some times you said the 80s, some painful times in the business or some ups and downs or what?
Yeah, as we started the business, and actually a few friends of mine, we were in the apprenticeship program with the union, and some relatives of mine said, let's go into business. So we started that on the side. And then when we graduated from the apprenticeship program, we actually had a remodeling business already going. And so as the business grew like that, and as we got more involved, we all started taking on our own projects, and it got to the point where I was running about 8 jobs at a time.
Oh, wow.
Really doing the whole thing by myself, managing the jobs, handling, everything about it, estimating, collecting, all of the construction. And it just really got to the point where I needed some kind of change. One of my relatives actually...
The pain had gotten to the point.
It was just, I got to that point where I realized I can't work any harder. I was working around the clock, and some nights wouldn't even go to bed. And, to work all night building cabinets, deliver them at 7 o'clock the next morning.
Oh, geez.
And I just knew that there was some huge problem wrong with this business. And a relative of mine that was about 4 years older than me, building houses, had died from a heart attack at 40. And I just told him, was talking to my wife about it. And I said, I'm on that same track. Something's wrong. And then finally it was realizing that we had to make a major change in the business. I had completely lost all quality time with my family. And so we just sort of reeled it back in, closed down the things that we had going, slowed everything down, and really took time to think about what we wanted the business to look like in the future.
So I kind of had you expand on that quote, and it kind of, I think, parlayed into our next question, which was kind of sharing a story of a time in your journey where you encountered failure. Is that kind of where you would take that conversation, or is there another part in your journey that you'd highlight as far as the failure, and tell us the story of that, but also some of the lessons you learned? That's where you're just, I think, getting into there.
Well, I think a lot of folks that are in the remodeling, construction, carpentry business really do care about what they do, and they care about their customers. And I think that can spill over into people overworking, in my case, and into just plain what was called burnout at the time, where you just really had nothing else left to give.
I'm sure nobody listening to this can even possibly relate to that. Everybody's probably like, what is this guy talking about? Man, I'm working like 35 hours a week and making 6 figures.
I think I've gone through 4 or 5 of those.
Carry on.
Well, that's what it was like. I sat down with my wife and I said, I'm going to learn to work smarter instead of harder. I'm going to put in 8 hours a day. I'll start at 8 and finish at 5. I won't do any appointments at night.
There you go.
If we can't make this business go within those parameters, then we'll do something else. But I need some normalcy. I need time with you. I need time with the kids. I'm losing this quality of life that I really want. And so from that actually event, we began to develop a system and a form for the business and processes that would give us comfort and control, and led into all kinds of other innovations that otherwise, if we hadn't stopped and said there has to be something better, then we would have never gone to the next step.
Yeah, it sounds like you made a decision to run a business versus letting the business run you. And I think it's tough to do. A lot of people are still struggling with that.
And Ryan, back then we didn't even have that terminology.
Right.
It was still another 10 years before those books
came out. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But that was it.
That's great. Now taking it, so it sounds like you had that aha moment, in that period of time. Is there something else you want to expand there, or another breakthrough that you had that really led to a big change in your business?
There were, from that, we began to make other changes. I had sort of discovered this project manager model. We started focusing in on having, someone on the job who had the job under control all the time.
Which allowed you to do something else, maybe a little more important in your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was able to administrate everything about the business by doing that.
That's huge.
At that point, I didn't have to be on every job at the same time. And
right.
A side effect of that is we began to graph our jobs out, plan every job, every half day of every job was planned. That in combination with by accident, we actually realized that we had gotten 25% faster in producing the jobs. And so then when we concentrated on that, it had grown to 40% faster. So we were actually doing a 10-week job in 6 weeks. And we began to charge for estimates or bids, making money off of that. Things that people would tell us that you can't do.
Couldn't do,
so
right.
We have to do. We have to do this in order to succeed, and we found out that it worked.
When was that? What was that, back in the 90s or?
Yeah, we began charging for estimates. I believe that was in the early 90s. And some years, now charging for estimates, we make $100,000 just charging for estimates. So whether we get the job or not.
So to recap what I just heard there, and I think it's important to recap it: pain, brokenness, working too hard, business running myself instead of me running the business. Aha moment of saying this ain't going to work. How and then putting the pieces together. And the pieces, it sounds like the first one was, I need a project manager, right? You got the project manager in place. Did you call it the project manager? Or did you call it a different title there?
We use the term project manager.
Okay.
And actually,
go ahead.
My project managers only do one job at a time. And where most project managers do 4 or 5 jobs at a time.
And are they swinging the hammer along with managing the project? Are they kind of doing that dual role?
No, we had tried the lead carpenter system back in the late 80s. That didn't work for us.
Okay.
And I really wanted this individual to be monitoring 3 or 4 different trade contractors instead of swinging the hammer himself. He actually slowed down when he put his tools on.
Gotcha.
Right.
We require our guys not to wear tools, not to do the work, instead to learn how to manage.
Gotcha. So that project manager role, plan every half day of the job. I haven't heard that philosophy very much. Yeah, planning makes sense, but planning every half day, that was pretty clear to me and interesting. We've gotten to through doing that, through better systems, through better processes, through better planning, we were getting 25% faster, and then by optimizing that even further, 40% faster, right? We were doing things that our competition couldn't nearly come close to. Our clients were happier because of it, right?
Right, absolutely. We ran basically experiments. We started doing, we did a project where we did a complete bathroom in 1 week. And then we had someone ask us, they wanted to surprise their wife and do a kitchen in 1 week. And so we planned every detail, everything about it. And we're able we did their kitchen, and then also we did the den and foyer in 1 week. And it can be done, but it takes planning. But then once you learn how to do that, you can apply it to every other job you have.
I think the other thing I'm hearing here is that, all this stuff didn't happen overnight, right? What I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, is incremental improvements over time.
Absolutely. And actually, some of the carpenters who I wanted to become project managers had no management skills. And so that didn't work. So we actually began to have to, the company itself had to morph into a different company. And as people came in the door, we had to explain to them who we were and how we did this so that they would buy in at the beginning, so that we got the kind of people that we needed for the roles that were.
Well, it also sounds like you had to give up some control, not necessarily abdicating everything, but delegating more effectively so that you could be done by 5 o'clock and you could get jobs done faster and make more money. So it all works out if you can just get to a point where you can start implementing some of these changes, and they're not easy.
No, but but you implement one at a time and work on it, develop that, and then work on the next one. In order to streamline the whole operation.
Absolutely.
And then one more thing to to recap what you hit on before, Ryan, you move on to the next question, that charging for estimates, it seems like it's such a difficult, I mean, some people get it, other people come from the standpoint of, you can't do that, it's impossible to do that. Speak just for a little bit, Rob, on why more people in our industry need to be charging for estimates.
I realize with that I could do a better job in the estimate. I could spend, my friends were spending 3 days bidding projects to go in and turn it in, and then, be lumped into a pile of other people who were, and have no concept whether they would get the job or not. And what we also found out is by charging for estimates, it eliminated the competition. We even streamed that even further by including our design in with our pricing, and we charge for both of those. And by doing that, then we're eliminating the competition because the client is sitting with us the entire time. We plan this meeting, we have a series of meetings with them, anywhere from 4 to 8 different meetings. So they get to know us, we get to know them, we decide whether we want to work with them or not. They decide the same about us. So we eliminated competition because the competition never got the job. It never went out to bid.
Right. By the end of that process, you're locked in. You're going to be the person they're going to hire.
Yeah, pretty much. And by the time we got through with it, the entire process had been was in a position where we could literally plug it into our computer model, and the job was ready to go as far as we were concerned. So we were actually gaining time on the job even during that process. Anyone else coming in, they could see the data, they could bid it, but they weren't ready to go and start the job like we were.
Beautiful.
So
Thank you for
it worked out great. Like I say, if you make the rules, then you can eliminate the competition.
It's a great model. Yep. Rob, is there anything in your business right now that's exciting you?
Probably the biggest thing right now is what technology has done to the business. More and more, my employees were coming to me and saying, I've seen what you do, and in conjunction with my remodeling company, I've owned several other companies, and working on another business model right now. But in doing that, I encourage them to do whatever makes them happy. And they come to me and said, I really would like to go home, raise my kids, work out of my house. Is there a way I could do my job from home? And so what we've done is started developing outsourcing ways of handling things where someone could handle, the phones, the appointments, the bookkeeping, the accounting, all of those kind of things from their location, or they actually go into a separate business, and I hire them to do that for me.
Oh, nice.
And we're pushing that throughout the entire company right now and shrinking the overhead costs of the company by doing that. My office manager actually, if they left the company, started their own business, I hired them to run my office from their home, and my cost probably went down 60% in what it was costing me for what they were producing for the company. So really, I think the outsourcing possibilities with technology is really changing. Computers, iPhones, cameras. It's really changing how we do what we do.
It is, and it's also easy to get kind of lost in technology because there are so many different options. Do you have any recommendations as far as implementing? Just kind of focus on one thing at a time, or what do you recommend looking at right off the bat?
My design staff actually were also highly skilled in technical details. And so they became my go-to guys. If they had not had those skills, I would have had to have someone who could answer the those questions for me of how to move into the computer programs and things like that.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have some resource there of someone who understands, who's already touched these things, where you're headed.
Got it. Good. Well, before we get in the lightning round, I was clicking around your website, and if for those of you listening, remodelit.info, remodelit.info. And I saw that you highlighted, a lot of little things you do differently than other remodelers. You talk about clean neighbor environment, design services, scheduling, timeliness, warranty. Can you speak about those things for a minute? Kind of the importance of those little things, and just making sure, and I'm guessing and assuming that this is the case, that these little things are what really give the clients a more remarkable remodeling experience, instead of just, Rob's company did a good job. No, they did a fantastic job. Speak to some of those little things, if you would, for a second.
The main part of our sales process is to differentiate ourselves between how we operate and how other companies operate. And so we're spending most of our time explaining how the business works. And actually, we tell people we're offering you a remodeling system. We're not here to sell you a job. But we do about 13 things that are different from what anyone else does. And here are the 13 things that we do. We have a full-time project manager on your site. We have, here's the list of our insurances. We're going to give you this data up front. Our licenses, we're going to give you all this data up front. And we're going to show you every way. We plan the job thoroughly. We have it on a schedule. We'll tell you when we're going to do the job, when we expect to be through. We're going to explain to you up front that we're going to complete the job faster than the other guys, 40% faster than they would complete it. And so you use that time really to say, here are the niches and the way that we handle things that are completely different from everybody else. You've got to separate yourself from the crowd. That's how you make the rules.
You've got
of engagement of how we're going to move ahead. So that any other choice they make is a lesser choice.
Yep. Yeah, and there really is no competition at that point, because you've identified all of these things that make you better and unique. And it's not just about workmanship or quality. Everybody does a nice job. Well, most remodelers do a pretty good job, but it's about identifying all of those cool little things that you do better and different, that when you put it in your marketing, when you put it in your sales process, you sound like somebody from another planet. You know what I mean? Like the other guy that just showed up to look at the same project didn't talk about any of those things.
Right.
Makes it a lot easier.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to get into the lightning round questions, Rob. This is where we'll kind of fire through a series of questions, and you'll continue to share your smarts with us. Sounds good?
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
All right, so excellent. Ryan, why don't you start us off with the first one?
Okay, here we go. What is the best business advice you've ever received?
I think that would be attend the business educational classes at the national seminars that are available. For the price you pay and access to all of that data and information, there's a huge amount of benefit that I got out of attending the local or national conferences.
Excellent.
Awesome. Can you share, Rob, one of your personal habits that you believe attributes to your success?
There are probably a couple of things there, but one of the things, as far as a personal habit, I really feel, because my day is condensed from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, that I have to be able to hit the ground running. And really, so an hour before work, I always have a quiet time where I'll spend that time getting my mind basically ready for what's about to happen. I'll spend time in prayer, Bible reading, and then I'll spend about 30 minutes on reading other literature, usually something that's not remodeling related in any way. But I actually set that as an appointment, and everyone knows not to bother me during that time. And that way, I've dealt with any kind of mental pressures or anything like that before the day ever starts.
Excellent.
And so doing that helps. And one other habit is I probably read about 3 books a week.
Wow.
And on different topics. And my goal was to read 1 a week, but it got carried away.
How can you watch endless hours of TV if you're sitting there reading books?
Well, wasn't someone said recently that the TV watching adds up to about 13 years of your life?
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah.
It's like there's got to be more value than that.
There does. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Rob, what book and this might be challenging for somebody that's a book reader like you. Our last guest hardly read any books, so here's the opposite end of the spectrum. What book, or maybe I'll give you two because you're an avid reader, that would you recommend to Remodelers on the Rise listeners?
I would think that the most valuable book would probably be Michael Gerber's The E-Myth Revisited. He has probably, I think he has about 6 other books out, but the best one of the ones he's written is probably the first one that he wrote, The E-Myth Revisited. Even there is some value in, he wrote E-Myth for contractors. That has some good value. And for those who are interested in increasing the speed of what they're doing, Eli Goldath, The Theory of Constraints, is really good, but it's an easy read, but it's a really heavy topic, so it may not do you any good at all unless you're really interested in speeding up how you do your work.
Those are some great recommendations, really good reads.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a resource of some kind that you could share with our listeners? And as a reminder to our audience, each resource will be available on the website with the detailed show notes from today's show at remodelersontherise.com/show2.
No, I don't have a product per se of something like that. I would like to offer, and I do this. I have about 4 or 5 other people across the country who I'm basically friends with. But I would offer free counsel, a personal conversation by emailing me at rob@remodelit.info and ask questions. And then during the day, I have a lot of fun answering people's questions, whatever it's about design, pricing, production, speed of production, whatever. I really enjoy talking to folks who are trying to get their business straightened out, but I don't have anything to any package or anything to sell.
Sure, that's a great offer. Now we're just starting this podcast, but you could have tens of thousands of emails flowing through your inbox. I don't want you complaining to us if you do.
Yeah. I'll package those and forward them back to Ryan and Kyle.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, give them to Ryan. Don't give them to me. I'm too busy.
Yeah.
I have 4 kids. He only has 2 going on 3. So.
Yeah. Gee.
All right. So here's the final question. It's a bit of a doozy. Imagine, Rob, you woke up tomorrow morning and you were in the same exact business, but you knew no one, had no sales, and only $500 of startup money. And your life depended on you selling something in the next 7 days. You still have all the experience and knowledge you currently have. Your food and shelter is taken care of, but all you have is a laptop and $500. What would you do in the next 7 days to survive and generate new business? And remember, your life depends on it.
And not knowing anyone, that's a real handicap.
Yeah.
I think
I'm glad you caught that, because the last couple of people have skipped over that one and they went straight to their network. You listened attentively.
Well, and again, I think sometimes the answer is in the question. So if you listen to what people are saying, sometimes you get the point. Actually, what I would do, I would start a talk radio show, and even I could get a co-host from a local college for free. I can get this radio show for free. I'd make thousands of connections. I could be on the air replacing some, ridiculous infomercial, probably within a week, and the leads would come in at about $1 million a year from that. Then I'd have to decide, maybe I take that 500 and hire you two guys.
Nice.
There we go.
Excellent answer. I like it.
Well, the fun thing about that answer is I've already done that. So
Right.
I actually had proposed that to a radio station, and they went for it. So I get the airtime for free, and then I help them. I introduce them to different trade contractors and suppliers so they can sell advertising. So the radio show doesn't cost me anything.
I think it's a great idea. I think that's an excellent answer.
I think anyone could do it if they have. You really lean on the knowledge that you already have.
Sure.
So to do that type business.
That's a great answer. I love it. Rob, finally, where can people get a hold of you? I think Kyle mentioned your website. And is there anything else you wanted to share today?
Well, let me mention, in order to get in touch with me, it's rob@remodelit.info. That's my email address. Probably the main thing that one of my mentors said years ago was, Rob, don't reinvent the wheel. Everything that you need to know, somebody already knows the answer to it. You may develop some innovation along the way, but the bulk things that you need to know, if you'll seek, those, if you'll go after, if you'll knock on doors, if you'll ask people, you'll find out that you can get that kind of information that you need, that specific information, if you'll just ask for it. And most of us, as independent cowboys, like we are, we don't ask for help. And,
right.
And it's really, there's so much available, but the first step is you kind of reaching out there by faith and hunting somebody down to, who would, I'm sure, would love to help you.
It's a great,
excellent
response.
Well, thank you, Rob, for coming on the show today. We really appreciate you sharing your story. And just a friendly reminder to all of our listeners, if you can check us out at remodellersontherise.com. If you could take 2 minutes to review and rate our show on iTunes, the more reviews and ratings we get on there, the better chance other people like yourself can find the show. So thank you again, Rob, for joining us today.
Thank you, Rob.
Glad to do it, guys.
Excellent. We'll talk to you all soon.
Remember, Remodelers on the Rise listeners, to head over to iTunes to like and review our show. You can also find today's interviews, full transcripts, and additional free resources at remodellersontherise.com. On behalf of Kyle and Ryan, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.